The
As you can
fluorescent
see,
lights in
Q3
the
projections
Hartford
show a
Development
15% revenue
boardroom
increase. What
hummed
about
with
supply
a
chain impacts?
frequency
We've
that made
diversified suppliers to
James's
mitigate that.
temples ache.
What do you mean it's falling apart?
11 faces
Get the team
stared
on it
back
now.
at him from around the
I'm on my way.
mahogany table, waiting for answers
Excuse
he
me,
didn't have.
we need to talk about your father.
The merger
What is it? Is he
proposal
all right?
with Castellan
He's stable, but there
Industries
are complications.
sat projected on the screen behind him. 43 slides of financial projections, market analysis, synergy models. But all he could see was the red notification blinking on his phone. Grandmother. Emergency. His thumb hovered over the screen. The board meeting had started 17 minutes ago. Robert Chen, the Dallas oil magnate who'd flown in specifically for this presentation, was leaning forward with the kind of patient interest that wouldn't last much longer. Patricia Morrison from Seattle had her pen poised over her notepad, a single eyebrow raised in question. These people controlled hundreds of millions in investment capital. They didn't wait for anyone. The phone buzzed again. Same contact. James felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Excuse me." The words came out rougher than intended. "I need to take this." He was already moving toward the door when Chen's voice followed him. "James, we've got the Castellan team on video in 20 minutes. The hallway swallowed the rest. James pressed the phone to his ear, his free hand already reaching for his coat from the rack outside his office. "Mr. Hartford, it's Margaret." The housekeeper's voice carried a tremor he'd never heard in 30 years of her employment. "Your grandmother collapsed in the garden this morning. They've taken her to Mount Sinai. The doctor said—" A pause, the sound of Margaret pulling herself together through sheer force of will. "He said you should come now." The phone nearly slipped from his hand. "Is she—" "She's alive. But James, she's asking for Owen. She keeps trying to sit up, keeps saying his name." Owen. His son, who is currently sitting in Mrs. Patterson's first-grade classroom at Riverside Prep, completely unaware that the woman who'd raised James, who'd stepped in after Catherine died 18 months ago, who made Sunday mornings bearable with her terrible pancakes and worse jokes, that woman might be dying. "I'm on my way." James was already in the elevator, watching the numbers descend. 34th floor, 33rd. Each ding felt like a countdown. "Have you called the school?" 3 times. They won't release Owen without a parent or authorized guardian present. And Mr. Hartford, Margaret's voice dropped. "Nancy quit this morning." The elevator doors opened to the parking garage. James stopped walking. "What?" "The nanny. She left a note on the kitchen counter. Said she couldn't handle Owen's behavioral issues anymore." Margaret's tone carried a weight of judgment that needed no elaboration. Nancy had been nanny number 8 in 18 months. "I tried to call the agency, but—" "I'll handle it." James was lying. He had no idea how to handle any of this. "Just stay with grandmother. I'll get Owen and meet you at the hospital." The drive to Mount Sinai should have taken 20 minutes. James made it in 12, his mind fracturing into a dozen different crisis points. The Castellan deal, Owen's school pickup, the quarterly earnings call scheduled for 3 o'clock, his grandmother who'd stood beside him at Catherine's funeral when he couldn't stand on his own, who'd moved into the guest wing without being asked because she knew he was drowning, who'd taught Owen how to tie his shoes and name every constellation visible from the mansion's rooftop terrace. The hospital smelled like industrial cleaning solution and fear. James found room 447 by following the sound of machines beeping in rhythms that meant alive, still alive, barely alive. His grandmother lay in the bed, looking smaller than she'd ever been, her skin the color of old parchment against white sheets. An oxygen tube snaked under her nose. Her wedding ring hung loose on her finger, the gold band she'd worn for 53 years before his grandfather passed. Dorothy Hartford's eyes were closed, but her lips moved soundlessly. James stepped closer and caught the words she was forming. Owen. 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 I'm here, Grandmother. He took her hand, careful of the IV taped to paper-thin skin. Her fingers curled around his with surprising strength. Her eyes opened, still sharp, still the color of slate, still seeing straight through him the way she had when he was 10 years old and lying about broken vases. Where's my great-grandson? At school. I'm going to get him. Today? Her voice came out reedy, diminished. James, the doctor said... She stopped, chest rising and falling too fast. The monitor beeped louder. A nurse appeared in the doorway, then a doctor, then suddenly James was being guided out into the hall while medical terminology flew past his ears. Stroke. Cerebral infarction. Next 48 hours critical. Family presence recommended. Can she have visitors? James heard himself asking. My son, he's 6. Short visits. The doctor was young, competent, already moving on to the next crisis. Keep it calm, no stress. No stress. James wanted to laugh. His grandmother had single-handedly managed the Hartford family's charitable foundation for 40 years, had gone toe-to-toe with mayors and governors, had stood in front of the board after his father's death and told them exactly how things would run from now on. She'd invented stress, thrived on it. But that woman wasn't in room 447. The woman in room 447 was 78 years old with a failing heart and a grandson who couldn't keep a nanny for more than 6 weeks. James's phone buzzed. Chen. We need to reschedule. Morrison's flying back to Seattle tonight. Another text, this one from his assistant. Legal needs sign-off on the Riverside contract. Where are you? And a third, from a number he didn't recognize. This is Riverside Prep. Owen Hartford is waiting in the main office. Please arrange pickup before 3:30 or he'll be sent to after-school care. It was 2:47. James looked back through the window at his grandmother. Her eyes had closed again, but her hand kept reaching toward the empty chair beside her bed, fingers grasping at air. The decision made itself. He was halfway to the parking garage when his phone rang again. Margaret's number. Mr. Hartford, I think I found someone. The housekeeper's voice carried a strange note of hope. My niece works at PS 118 in Queens. She has a friend, a teacher, who's looking for a position. She's available immediately. James reached his car. A teacher? Margaret, I need a nanny, not, she's done both. And sir? Margaret's voice dropped to something almost conspiratorial. She's here. At the hospital. I showed her a photo of Owen, explained the situation. She came anyway. Why would a stranger come to a hospital for a job interview? I didn't ask her to come. I just mentioned your grandmother was ill. A pause. She brought a children's book. She's in the room now, reading to Mrs. Hartford. James stopped with his hand on the car door. There's a stranger in my grandmother's hospital room? Mrs. Hartford hasn't opened her eyes in 30 minutes, until this woman started reading. Margaret's voice softened. She's calmer now, heart rate's down. The nurse said, well, you should come see. The elevator ride back up to the 4th floor felt longer than the first descent. James's mind cataloged everything wrong with this scenario. Unauthorized person in a patient's room, Margaret overstepping boundaries, his own desperation making him even consider trusting a complete stranger with his family, with Owen. But when he reached room 447, the monitor's beeping had indeed slowed to something steadier. And sitting in the chair beside his grandmother's bed, holding a worn paperback copy of Where the Wild Things Are, was a woman in a navy dress that had seen better days. She read quietly, her voice pitched low enough that James had to step inside to hear. And now, let the wild rumpus start. Dorothy's fingers weren't grasping anymore. They rested on top of the thin hospital blanket, relaxed. The woman glanced up as James entered, and he got his first clear look at her face. Late 20s, maybe 30. Dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. No jewelry except small silver studs in her ears. Her dress was clean, but the hem had been mended, the kind of careful repair that spoke of necessity rather than fashion. She wore drugstore makeup, if she wore any at all, and her shoes had the scuffed toes of someone who walked the city blocks instead of taking cabs. She stood immediately, book still in hand. "Mr. Hartford, I'm Clara Bennett." "I'm sorry for intruding," Margaret said. "You're the teacher." James moved to his grandmother's other side, checked the monitors again. The numbers looked better than they had 20 minutes ago. Coincidence? Had to be. "I was. Elementary school. 3rd grade. Clara set the book on the side table carefully, as if it were valuable. "I'm between positions right now." "Margaret said you're looking for nanny work." Something flickered across her expression. Pride, maybe, or resignation. "I'm looking for work. I have experience with children, references if you need them." James's phone buzzed again. The school. 3:15. 15 minutes until they sent Owen to after-school care, where he'd spend 2 hours convinced he'd been abandoned, where he'd come home with that look in his eyes that said, she left too, just like Mom. "Can you drive?" Clara blinked at the non-sequitur. "Yes, but I don't have a car. I need you to pick up my son from school." James pulled out his wallet, extracted his black card and driver's license. "Take my car. It's the Mercedes in spot 12B in the garage. Show them this ID, sign him out, bring him back here. His name is Owen Hartford. He's 6. 1st grade at Riverside Prep." She stared at the cards like he'd handed her live grenades. "Mr. Hartford, I can't just... You don't know me. I could be anyone." "Margaret knows you. That's enough." It wasn't, but James was out of options and time. "Can you do this or not?" Clara looked at Dorothy, then back at James, her jaw set with something that might have been determination. "What's his favorite food?" "What?" "Your son. What does he like to eat when he's upset?" James opened his mouth and realized he didn't know. Couldn't remember the last time he'd been home for a meal that wasn't interrupted by work call. Chicken nuggets? Does he have allergies? Fears? Does he like being touched when he's scared? Or does he need space? The questions hit like accusations. James felt his face heat. "Miss Bennett, Clara." She took the cards from his hand, her fingers calloused in a way that suggested physical work, not Manhattan manicures. "And I'll bring him back. But Mr. Hartford?" Her eyes met his, and there was something uncomfortably direct in her gaze. "When I do, you're going to answer those questions. Because if you hire me, I need to know who I'm caring for." She was gone before he could respond, navy dress disappearing around the corner, taking his credit card and car keys, and probably his last shred of professional dignity with her. Margaret appeared in the doorway, looking uncharacteristically pleased with herself. "That went well. I just gave a complete stranger access to my son and my Mercedes. You gave a good woman a chance to help. Margaret moved to adjust Dorothy's blanket with the practiced care of someone who'd been doing it for decades. That girl walked 3 miles from Queens to get here. I saw her coming up the street, checking the address I'd texted her. She could have taken the subway, saved herself an hour. But she walked because she'd spent her last $20 on that book. She nodded toward Where the Wild Things Are. Said every child should have it read to them when they're scared. James picked up the book. The spine was cracked from repeated readings, the pages soft with age. Inside the front cover, in careful handwriting, Property of Clara Bennett, Mrs. Rodriguez's 3rd grade class, 2019. 5 years old. She'd kept a children's book from her teaching days for 5 years. His phone rang. Chen again. James let it go to voicemail. How did you even find her? He set the book down, watching his grandmother's chest rise and fall in steady rhythm. I didn't. My niece Rosa teaches at PS 118.
She called this morning, said one of her colleagues had to leave mid-year. Family emergency. Her mother was sick, passed away 2 years ago, but there were still medical bills. The girl's been working 3 jobs trying to pay them off. Margaret's voice carried the weight of shared struggle, of understanding what it meant to choose between dreams and survival. Rosa said she was the best teacher in the school. Kids loved her. Parents requested her specifically, but she gave it up to take care of her family. James thought about the mended hem on Clara's dress, the 3-mile walk, the last $20 spent on a book for a dying woman she'd never met. What's your situation now? Sister, 16 years old, still in high school. Clara's been supporting both of them since their mother died. Margaret smoothed an invisible wrinkle from Dorothy's blanket. Rosa said Clara used to have plans. Full scholarship to NYU, psychology program. Had to drop out sophomore year when her mother got diagnosed. How old is she? 28. So she'd been taking care of her family for almost a decade, watching her own future disappear into medical bills and guardian responsibilities while her peers graduated, got careers, built lives. James looked at his grandmother, then at his watch. 3:22. Clara would be at the school by now, showing his ID to skeptical administrators, trying to convince them she had the right to take Owen Hartford home. Owen, who hadn't smiled in 3 weeks. Who'd asked his last nanny if she was going to leave like Mommy did. Who'd been drawing pictures of their family lately, stick figures of himself and James, with an empty space where a third person should be. The crayon outline carefully traced and retraced until the paper nearly tore. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Got him. He says his favorite food is McDonald's Happy Meals, and he's scared of the dark but pretends he's not. Coming back now. James stared at the message. She'd actually asked Owen what he needed, what he feared. Had gotten answers James hadn't known existed. He texted back. Thank you. The response came immediately. He's crying, says he wants Grandma Dot. Is she okay? James looked at his grandmother, still breathing, still here, still fighting in the way Dorothy Hartford had always fought, quietly, stubbornly, refusing to give ground. Tell him she's okay. Tell him she can't wait to see him. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, I'm not going to lie to a 6-year-old. I'll tell him she's sick but strong and that she needs him to be brave for a little while. Is that acceptable? James felt something in his chest crack open. When was the last time someone had asked his permission to be honest with his own son? Yes, that's perfect.
The drive back from Riverside Prep should have given Clara time to panic about what she'd just agreed to.
Instead, she spent it listening to a 6-year-old boy explain why Tyrannosaurus rex was objectively the best dinosaur, even though Stegosaurus had cooler armor.
But T-Rex could bite through anything,
Owen said from the back seat, his voice thick with recent tears, but steadying now.
Even cars, even buildings.
What about tanks? Clara kept her eyes on the road, grateful that the Mercedes drove itself compared to the decade-old Honda Civic she'd sold last year to make rent.
Probably. T-Rex has the strongest bite of any land animal ever.
Owen kicked his feet against the seat, a nervous rhythm.
Daddy says I can't have a dinosaur for a pet.
Your dad's probably right. Where would you keep it?
The backyard. We have a big backyard.
A pause.
Is Grandma Dot gonna die?
Clara's hands tightened on the wheel. The hospital was 3 blocks away. She could see Mount Sinai's towers rising against the gray November sky. I don't know, Owen. She checked the rear-view mirror, found his eyes in the reflection.
But I know she's strong. And I know she loves you very much.
How do you know? You don't even know her.
I read to her this afternoon. Her hand squeezed mine when I got to the good parts of the story. People who squeeze hands during good parts are the kind of people who fight hard.
Owen considered this with the seriousness of someone much older. What book?
Where the Wild Things Are.
That's a baby book.
It's a classic. There's a difference.
What's a classic?
Something that's good no matter how old you get. Clara pulled into the hospital parking garage, found spot 12B, put the car in park. You ready?
Owen unbuckled his seatbelt but didn't move. Are you gonna leave like Nancy did?
The question landed like a punch. Clara turned in her seat to face him fully. Small for 6, with his father's dark hair and eyes that had seen too much loss already. A dinosaur backpack clutched in both hands,
Joe laces untied, a chocolate milk stain on his school uniform collar. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, Owen. Or next week. Or next month. She kept her voice level, honest. But right now, today, I'm here. And I'm going to walk with you up to your grandma's room. And we're going to be brave together. Deal? He studied her face like he was looking for lies. Whatever he found must have been acceptable because he nodded. Deal. The elevator ride to the 4th floor was silent except for Owen's breathing, too fast, too shallow. Clara knelt down before the doors opened. Your grandma might look different than you remember. She has some tubes and machines helping her, but it's still her, okay? Still Grandma Dot. Will it hurt her if I hug her? We'll ask the nurse first, but I bet she'd love to hold your hand. The doors opened. James Hartford stood in the hallway outside room 447, and Clara got her first clear look at him in decent light. Tall, probably 6'1" or 6'2", expensive suit with the tie loosened, top button undone. Dark hair starting to gray at the temples despite looking no older than 35. The kind of exhaustion around his eyes that suggested weeks of bad sleep, not just one crisis day. But when he saw Owen, everything in his expression shifted. He dropped to one knee, arms open, and his son ran into them with the force of someone who'd been terrified he might not get another chance. Hey, buddy. James's voice cracked. I'm here. We're okay. Is Grandma Dot gonna die? Owen's voice was muffled against his father's shoulder. I don't know, but we're going to be with her, okay? You and me. Owen pulled back, looked at Clara.
And Clara. James's eyes followed his son's gaze, and Clara saw the moment he really registered her for the first time, not as a solution to a problem, but as a person who'd just spent 45 minutes earning his son's trust while driving a car worth more than she'd make in 5 years. And Clara, James agreed quietly. The nurse let them in 2 at a time. Clara stayed in the hallway while James took Owen in first, watching through the window as the little boy climbed carefully onto the chair beside his grandmother's bed. Dorothy's eyes opened when Owen took her hand. Her mouth moved, forming words Clara couldn't hear. But Owen smiled, actually smiled, bright and real, and started telling her about his day, the math test, the turkey drawing for Thanksgiving, the fact that his new friend Marcus had the same dinosaur lunchbox. Dorothy's fingers squeezed his hand during the good parts. Clara looked away, giving them privacy, and found Margaret standing beside her. The housekeeper's eyes were wet. That's the first time she's been lucid since this morning. Kids have that effect sometimes. Clara watched Owen lean closer, whispering something that made his grandmother's mouth curve into what might have been a laugh. They remind us what we're fighting for. Margaret studied her with the intensity of someone who'd spent 30 years reading people for a living. You're not what I expected. I get that a lot. I mean it as a compliment. The last 8 nannies, they all wanted the job because of the salary, the prestige. Working for the Hartford family opens doors in this city. Margaret's voice dropped. But you asked about Owen's favorite food, what he's afraid of. When was the last time he laughed? Clara didn't respond. Inside the room, James had joined them, standing on the other side of Dorothy's bed. The 3 of them made a picture. 3 generations of a family learning how to hold together when the foundation started cracking. The other nannies didn't last because Owen didn't need someone to manage his schedule, Margaret continued. He needed someone to see him. I don't have the job yet. You will. Mrs. Hartford squeezes hands during good parts, remember? Margaret's smile was knowing. And Mr. Hartford, he's not looking at you like you're the help. He's looking at you like you're the answer to a question he didn't know he was asking. Clara felt heat rise in her face. I'm going to wait outside. Give them family time. She made it to the elevator before her hands started shaking. The adrenaline of the last 2 hours caught up all at once. The 3-mile walk to the hospital, meeting a dying woman for the first time, taking a stranger's car to pick up his child, lying to herself that this was just another job when she knew it was more complicated than that. Her phone buzzed. Text from Lily. Where are you? Rent guy came by. I told him you'd have it by Friday. Clara closed her eyes. Friday was 4 days away. She had $847 in her checking account. Rent was $1,950. The gap between those numbers felt like the Grand Canyon. Another text. Also, Mrs. Chen says we're loud. Threatened to call landlord. And another. Also, I need $60 for SAT prep book. Sorry. Clara typed back. I'm working on it. Be home by 8. Order pizza for dinner. Can't afford pizza, came the response. Check the jar under my bed. Emergency cash. That's your emergency cash for college. This is an emergency. Order the pizza. Love you. The elevator doors opened. Clara stepped in, pressed the button for the lobby, watched the numbers descend. She should go home. Tell James Hartford thank you, but no thank you. Find something else, anything else that didn't involve getting attached to a little boy who drew pictures with empty spaces where his mother should be. But the emergency cash under her bed was down to $43. and Lily needed SAT books, and the rent was due Friday.
And medical bills didn't care about principles or boundaries, or the fact that Clara had promised herself she wouldn't get close to another family after the last one. The doors opened on the lobby. Clara stepped out, intending to find a quiet corner to call the one other nanny agency in her contact list, the one that placed people in New Jersey suburbs where the pay was lower, but maybe the heartbreak was too. Instead, she heard her name. James Hartford stood by the hospital entrance, coat on, keys in hand. He looked like he'd been running. "I thought you left."
"I was going to."
Clara stayed where she was, maintaining distance. "Your grandmother seems better. Owen's good with her. You don't need—"
"I do."
James crossed the space between them in 4 strides. Up close, she could see the fine lines around his eyes, the shadow of stubble on his jaw. He smelled like expensive cologne and desperation. "I need help. Owen needs consistency, and my grandmother—" His voice caught. "She woke up when he came in. Actually woke up. The nurse said she's stable now. Not out of danger, but stable."
"That's good. I'm glad."
"It's because of you."
Clara shook her head. "It's because of Owen, because she loves him."
She squeezed your hand during the good parts of the story.
"Margaret told you that?"
"She tells me everything important." James ran a hand through his hair, destroying whatever professional styling it had started with. "Look, I know this is irregular. I know I'm asking you to make a decision about a job you haven't interviewed for, with a family you don't know, based on one afternoon of crisis. But I'm going to be honest with you, Miss Bennett."
"Clara."
"Clara." He said it like he was testing the shape of it. "I've gone through 8 nannies in 18 months. 8. Professional, credentialed, agency-vetted nannies who came with references and background checks and early childhood education degrees. They all left because Owen is difficult, because he's grieving and angry and scared, and he takes it out on anyone who tries to get close. Because I'm never home, and when I am, I'm on the phone, and he knows he's not the priority, even though he should be. Even though he's the only priority that actually matters."
Clara watched his face carefully. This was the part where employers usually lied, usually promised changes they had no intention of making, schedules they'd never keep, attention they couldn't sustain. But James just stood there, looking exhausted and honest, and like he was drowning in deep water with no shore in sight.
"I can't promise I'll be better at this," he continued. "Can't promise I won't work late or miss bedtimes or forget school events. I can promise $4,500 a month, room and board in the guest wing, health insurance, and weekends off. I can promise Owen needs someone who asks what he's afraid of, who doesn't lie when things are hard, who'll stay longer than 6 weeks." $4,500. Clara's mental math spun out. Rent paid with $1,000 left over. Lily's SAT books. The last medical bills from her mother's hospice care. Maybe, eventually, enough saved to think about going back to school. Or enough rope to hang herself with when this fell apart like everything else. "I need Sundays off," she heard herself say, "to see my sister." Done. And if Owen asks about his mother, I answer honestly. I don't replace her. Don't try to. Something in James's expression shuddered. Catherine died 18 months ago. Car accident. Owen was in the back seat. Clara's breath caught.
"I didn't know."
No reason you would. James's voice flattened, the grief compressed into something he could carry without breaking. She was on her way to pick him up from a playdate. Drunk driver ran a red light. She died on impact. Owen had nightmares for 6 months. Still sleeps with a nightlight shaped like the moon, because Catherine used to tell him moon stories.
I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry. Sorry doesn't bring her back. Doesn't make me a better father. Doesn't stop my son from drawing pictures of our family with a missing piece. He met her eyes again. But you asked what he was afraid of. You told him the truth about my grandmother instead of making promises you couldn't keep. That's worth more than sorry. Clara thought about her own mother, the hospice bed in their tiny apartment, Lily holding one hand while Clara held the other. The moment between one breath and the next when everything changed and kept changing. A loss that echoed in every choice, every sacrifice, every time she walked past NYU and remembered what she'd given up. I'll do it, she said quietly. But if I see Owen getting hurt, by the situation, by inconsistency, by anything, I'm out. Money's not worth that. James's shoulders dropped an inch, tension releasing.
Fair enough. When do I start? Now? He said it like a question, but Clara heard the plea underneath. She thought about Lily waiting at home, the pizza that needed ordering, the SAT books and rent, and all the normal life that was supposed to happen tonight. Then she thought about a 6-year-old boy sitting beside his dying grandmother, asking if Clara was going to leave too. I need to go home first. Pack a bag, talk to my sister, make arrangements. She pulled out her phone. Give me your number. I'll be back by 8. James handed her a business card. Hartford Development. James Hartford, Chief Executive Officer. A phone number, an email, an address in Midtown that probably had 3 receptionists and a waiting room with abstract art. Clara flipped it over, wrote her own number on the back in the pen she always carried for grading papers she no longer had. Owen likes McDonald's Happy Meals, and he's afraid of the dark, but pretends he's not. I know, you told me. James pocketed the card. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I haven't done anything. You showed up. His voice carried a weight that suggested showing up was rarer than it should be. That's already more than most. The taxi ride back to Queens gave Clara 45 minutes to question every decision she'd made in the last 3 hours. By the time she climbed the 3 flights to her apartment, she'd mentally quit the job 17 times. Lily was sprawled on the futon couch that served as both their living room furniture and Clara's bed, calculus homework spread around her like a paper fortress. She looked up when the door opened, eyes narrowing with the suspicion of a teenager who'd learned to read her sister's moods by necessity. You have that look. What look? Clara dropped her bag by the door, headed for the kitchen alcove that barely qualified as a kitchen. The I made a decision you're not going to like look. Lily abandoned her homework, following Clara the 8 steps it took to cross their entire living space. What happened? Did the interview go bad? It went fine. I got the job. That's good, right? So why do you look like you're about to throw up? Clara opened the cupboard, found exactly 2 cans of soup and a box of pasta. She closed it again. It's a live-in position. Silence. Then, live-in, as in you won't be here. I'll have Sundays off, and I'll call every day. And Lily, the pay is... it's enough. Enough for rent, enough for your SAT books, enough to actually save some money for once instead of drowning in, I don't care about the money. Lily's voice cracked. You're all I have. You leave and I'm here alone? Clara turned to face her sister. 16 years old and trying so hard to be grown up, to not be a burden, to make up for the fact that their mother's illness had derailed both their lives. You're not alone.
Mrs. Chen downstairs will check on you.
And you can come visit on Sundays. The family has a huge house, Lily. Guest rooms and a backyard and
A rich family. You're going to live with rich people and take care of their rich kid while I eat ramen in this dump. Lily's eyes were bright with tears she refused to let fall. I get it. I do. We need the money. But don't pretend this is for me. This is for you. So you can stop feeling guilty about Mom's bills, about dropping out, about all the stuff that wasn't even your fault. The words hit harder because they were partially true. Clara had been carrying guilt like a second skeleton for 2 years. Every bill, every sacrifice, every choice that narrowed her future just a little bit more. You're right. Clara sat on the futon, patted the space beside her. Lily hesitated, then sat, maintaining a careful 6 inches of angry distance. I do feel guilty. All the time. But Lily, this job, it's not just money. There's a little boy who lost his mother.
who's so scared of being left that he asks every new person if they're going to stay? And I looked at him, and I saw you when Mom died. How terrified you were. How you tried to be brave and kept breaking anyway. So you're replacing us with them. I'm trying to keep us afloat while helping a kid who needs someone to show up. Both things can be true. Lily was quiet for a long moment. Outside, Mrs. Chen's television blared through the thin walls. Somewhere down the hall, the Rodriguez family was arguing in Spanish and English, their voices creating a familiar rhythm. What's he like? The kid? Clara pulled out her phone, showed Lily the photo Owen had insisted she take in the hospital room, him making a silly face, James caught mid-laugh in the background, Dorothy's hand just visible at the edge of the frame. His name's Owen, 6 years old, obsessed with dinosaurs, scared of the dark, asks hard questions. He's cute. Lily studied the photo. The dad's not bad either. Lily? What?
I'm 16, not blind. She handed the phone back. Is he nice? Or is he one of those rich jerks who thinks money fixes everything? Clara thought about James's face when he'd admitted he didn't know his son's favorite food, the way his voice had cracked talking about Catherine, the honesty in admitting he'd probably fail at being better. I think he's trying. That's all anyone can do. Lily leaned her head on Clara's shoulder, the anger deflating into something softer. You're really going? I'll be back on Sundays. Every Sunday. We'll do breakfast at that diner you like, the one with the chocolate chip pancakes. Promise? Promise. And you'll call every day? Every single day. And if the job sucks, you'll quit? Clara thought about Owen asking if she was going to leave, about Dorothy squeezing her hand during good parts, about the empty space in family drawings. If it sucks, I'll find something else. But I have to try first.
Lily sat up, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand.
Okay, but I'm ordering the pizza with extra cheese. And breadsticks, since you're abandoning me and all. I'm not. Clara saw the tiny smile tugging at her sister's mouth. Order whatever you want. We're celebrating. Celebrating you moving out to take care of someone else's family? Celebrating survival. We're still here, Lil. Still fighting. Mom would be proud of that. Lily's eyes filled again, but this time she let the tears fall. I miss her. Me too. Every day. They sat together on the futon that had been their mother's bed during hospice, and the apartment that still smelled faintly of lavender from the lotion she'd used, surrounded by the life they'd built from the wreckage. Clara thought about all the other ways this could have gone. Lily in foster care, Clara dropping out completely, working 3 minimum-wage jobs forever, the slow drowning of poverty and grief and no way out. This wasn't perfect,
Wasn't even good, but it was a chance, and chances were rare enough that turning one down felt like betraying everyone who'd fought to give them even this much. "I need to pack," Clara said finally. "Help me figure out what rich people expect their nannies to wear?" Lily's laugh was watery but real. "Probably not your NYU hoodie with the bleach stain." "That's my good hoodie." "That's my point." They spent the next hour sorting through Clara's limited wardrobe, arguing about whether professional meant boring or just not ripped jeans, ordering pizza with extra everything and pretending this was normal. Just another Thursday night. Just another change in a life that had been nothing but change for 2 years. By the time Clara's bag was packed and the pizza was gone, and Lily had extracted 7 more promises about Sunday breakfasts, it was nearly 8 o'clock. Clara stood at the door, hand on the knob, looking back at the apartment that had been home and prison and sanctuary all at once. "You really think this is the right thing?" Lily asked from the futon. Clara thought about right and wrong, about choices and consequences, about all the ways good intentions could go bad. "I think it's the best option we've got right now." "That's not the same thing." "No," Clara agreed. "It's not." She closed the door on her sister's worried face and took the 3 flights down to street level. The taxi she'd called was waiting, meter already running. Clara gave the driver the Upper East Side address James had texted, watched the numbers climb as they crossed the bridge from Queens to Manhattan, from her world to his. The Hartford mansion appeared like something from a different century. 4 stories of limestone and glass, with actual columns framing the entrance and windows that glowed warm against the November darkness, the kind of house that had staff and histories and ghosts. Clara paid the driver with the last of her cash, stood on the sidewalk with her single duffel bag, and wondered what the hell she'd just agreed to. The door opened before she could knock. Margaret stood backlit in the entrance, looking like she'd been waiting. "Perfect timing. Mr. Hartford just got back from the hospital with Owen. Mrs. Dorothy is stable enough they felt comfortable leaving for the night." She ushered Clara inside, where the foyer alone was bigger than Clara's entire apartment. Marble floors, a chandelier that probably cost more than her mother's medical bills, artwork on the walls that might have been real. "How is she?" Clara set her bag down carefully, afraid to touch anything. "Better. The doctor is cautiously optimistic." Margaret led her down a hallway lined with family photographs, James at various ages, a woman who must have been Catherine, Owen as a baby, Dorothy looking fierce and elegant in what appeared to be the same mansion 50 years ago. "Mr. Hartford wants to talk to you before you settle in. He's in the study." The study was all dark wood and leather, the kind of masculine space designed to intimidate. James sat behind a desk that could have doubled as a boat, papers scattered across the surface. He stood when they entered. "Clara, you came back." "I said I would." "People say a lot of things." He gestured to the chair across from him. "Please, sit. We should discuss terms properly." Clara sat, feeling severely underdressed in her jeans and the NYU hoodie Lily had insisted wasn't that bad. Margaret disappeared, leaving them alone. James pulled out a folder, extracted several printed pages. "Standard employment contract. $4,500 monthly, paid on the 1st. Health insurance through the company. 2 weeks paid vacation, sick days as needed. Room and board included. Sundays off as requested. He slid the papers across the desk. Clara scanned them, looking for the catch. There was always a catch. This seems straightforward. It is, with one addition. James pulled out another sheet. My grandmother wants to meet with you. Tomorrow morning at the hospital. She's insisting on it before we finalize anything. Clara looked up from the contract. She wants to interview me? She wants to make sure I'm not making another mistake. James's smile was tired. Fair warning, my grandmother is direct. She'll ask you questions that would make most people walk out. What kind of questions? The kind that determine whether you're here for Owen or for the Hartford name. Whether you'll stay when things get hard. Whether you understand what it means to be part of this family. I'm not part of your family. I'm an employee. Tell that to my grandmother. James leaned back in his chair. She has strong opinions about the difference. Clara set the contract down. Mr. Hartford, James, I need you to understand something. I'm good at my job. I care about kids. I'll show up and do everything in my power to help Owen. But I won't pretend this is more than what it is. A job. With boundaries. Because when those lines get blurred, people get hurt. Speaking from experience, Clara thought about the last family she'd nannied for 3 years ago when she was still in school. How the mother had called her one of us. How she'd let herself believe it. How they'd let her go the day after their son's birthday party because they didn't need her anymore. And the pain of that dismissal had taught her exactly how much family was worth when money was involved. Let's just say I've learned to keep things professional. James studied her across the desk. In the lamplight, his eyes looked more gray than blue, shadows pooling underneath. He looked like someone who'd been running on fumes for months. My grandmother is going to try to change your mind about that. Good luck to her. She's very persuasive. I'm very stubborn. The corner of James's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Fair enough. So we have a deal? Pending my grandmother's approval? Clara thought about Lily alone in the apartment, about the rent due Friday, about Owen's drawing with the missing piece. We have a deal. They shook hands across the desk. James's grip was firm, professional, exactly what it should be. Clara told herself the warmth of his palm didn't mean anything, that the way he held on for an extra second was just politeness. Margaret reappeared to show Clara to her room. The guest wing was on the 3rd floor, accessed by a back staircase that suggested this had originally been servants' quarters. But the room itself was beautiful. Queen bed with actual pillows, a window overlooking the garden, an ensuite bathroom with a tub. Owen's room is down the hall, Margaret explained. Mr. Hartford is on the 2nd floor. I'm in the basement apartment. Kitchen is 1st floor. Help yourself to anything. Owen usually wakes around 6:30. Breakfast at 7, school bus at 7:45. Clara set her duffel on the bed. It looked ridiculous there. A thrift store bag on 1,000 thread count sheets. What's he like in the mornings? Grumpy. Doesn't like eggs. Refuses to wear anything with tags. Margaret's expression softened. He'll test you. Push boundaries. See if you'll stay. They all do that. Owen's different. He's not looking for someone to control him. He's looking for someone strong enough to stay when he's being difficult. Margaret moved toward the door, paused. Mrs. Dorothy saw that in you today. That's why she wants to meet tomorrow. After Margaret left, Clara unpacked her meager belongings. 3 days of clothes, toiletries, the photo of her mother she kept in a frame made from popsicle sticks Lily had constructed in 3rd grade, her NYU student ID,
expired but kept as evidence that she'd almost made it. She called Lily. "How is it?" Her sister's voice came through tinny but familiar. "Big. Really big. My room has a bathtub." "Fancy. Are they treating you okay?" "So far. I meet the grandmother tomorrow. She has to approve me." "What if she doesn't?" Clara looked around the room, at the comfort she could have for however long this lasted, at the chance to stop drowning, even if just temporarily. "Then I find something else." "But Lily, I think this might work." "You sound different." "Different how?" "Hopeful. You haven't sounded hopeful in a long time." Clara's throat tightened. "Get some sleep. School tomorrow." "Love you. Love you more."
She hung up, sat on the edge of the bed that was softer than anything she'd slept on in years, and let herself hope. Just a little. Just enough.
Down the hall, a door opened. Small footsteps padded past. Clara stood, moved to her own door, opened it quietly. Owen stood in the hallway in dinosaur pajamas, clutching a stuffed triceratops. His eyes were wet. "Can't sleep," he said, voice small. Clara knelt to his level. "Did you try counting T-Rex?" "That's sheep. You count sheep." "Counting sheep is boring. T-Rex is better." She stood, held out her hand. "Want me to tuck you back in?" Owen's small hand slipped into hers, trusting. They walked to his room together, a space that managed to be both enormous and cozy, filled with dinosaur everything. Posters, toys, a nightlight shaped like the moon. Clara tucked him into bed, pulled the covers to his chin. "Close your eyes." "Will you stay until I fall asleep?" She thought about boundaries, about professional distance, about all the rules she'd made to protect herself. Then she sat on the edge of his bed and said, "I'll stay." Owen's breathing evened out in minutes. Clara watched his small chest rise and fall, thought about Catherine who used to sit here, about the moon stories that would never be told again, about all the ways love could be lost. When she was sure he was deeply asleep, she stood carefully and turned to leave. James stood in the doorway, watching. Clara froze, caught. "I'm sorry. I heard him in the hall. I should have—" "Thank you." James's voice was rough. "I've been trying to get him to sleep without nightmares for weeks." "Kids respond to consistency. Give it time." "We're on Nanny number 8. How much consistency is that?" Clara moved past him into the hallway, putting distance between them. "Then maybe the problem isn't the nannies." She regretted it instantly. James's expression shuddered, and she remembered too late that he was her employer, that she'd been here less than 2 hours, that some truths weren't hers to speak. But instead of anger, James just nodded slowly. "You're right. The problem is me. Trying to fix it with money instead of time. Thinking someone else can give Owen what I can't." "What can't you give him?" "Enough of myself. Enough presence. Enough—" He stopped, shook his head. "It's late. You should get some rest. Tomorrow will be intense." "The grandmother interview?" "Dorothy doesn't interview. She interrogates. Decides who's worthy of being in Owen's life." James's smile was faint, sad. "She's never approved of anyone yet." "Then Owen hasn't had a nanny in 18 months?" He's had 8 temporary nannies, no one Dorothy considered permanent. James met her eyes across the hallway. She's going to ask you things that are none of her business. About your family, your past, your plans.
She's going to push every boundary to see if you push back. Why are you warning me? Because I don't want you to quit before you start, and because... He paused, choosing words carefully. Owen smiled today. At the hospital, when he saw you and my grandmother together. Actually smiled. I haven't seen that in weeks. Clara's heart did something complicated in her chest. He's a good kid. He's a scared kid. But maybe, with the right person, he could be good again too. They stood in the dim hallway, the space between them filled with things neither could say. Clara thought about stepping closer, about comfort and connection, about all the ways this could go wrong. Instead, she said goodnight and went to her room, closing the door on the longing in James Hartford's tired eyes. She climbed into the too-soft bed, pulled the expensive sheets up to her chin, and listened to the sounds of this unfamiliar house settling around her. Somewhere down the hall, Owen slept without nightmares. On the second floor, James probably wasn't sleeping at all. In a hospital bed across the city, Dorothy Hartford fought her way back from the edge. And in Queens, Lily was alone in their apartment, eating leftover pizza and pretending to be brave. Clara closed her eyes and prayed she'd made the right choice, that this time the hope wouldn't break her, that this time she'd be strong enough to stay. Dorothy Hartford's hospital room looked different in morning light. The machines still beeped their steady rhythms, but sunlight through the eastern windows painted everything gold instead of the sickly fluorescent of night before. Clara stood in the doorway at 7:45, having spent the previous hour getting Owen fed, dressed, and onto the school bus with minimal tears and only one minor tantrum about wearing socks. The woman in the bed was awake, propped against pillows, looking significantly more alive than she had yesterday. Her slate-gray eyes tracked Clara's entrance with the sharpness of someone who missed nothing. "So you're the girl who came back." Dorothy's voice still carried that reedy quality, but underneath was steel. "Margaret said you would. I told her people don't show up twice for jobs this complicated." Clara moved into the room, pulling the chair closer to the bed. "I made a commitment." "To my grandson or to the salary?" "Both. I need the money. Owen needs consistency. Those things aren't mutually exclusive." Dorothy's mouth curved into something that might have been approval. "Honest. I like that." The last 3 lied through their teeth about why they wanted the position, talked about their passion for childcare, their calling to serve families. Her laugh turned into a cough. When she recovered, her expression was sharper. They lasted 6 weeks combined. You know why? Owen tested them. Owen was grieving. Still is. They wanted a paycheck and a prestigious address. He wanted someone who'd stay when things got messy. Dorothy's fingers plucked at the blanket, restless. "Tell me about your mother." The question landed like a punch. Clara kept her expression neutral. "What about her?" "Margaret said she died 2 years ago. Cancer. That you dropped out of NYU to take care of her. That you've been supporting your sister since." Dorothy's eyes narrowed. "That's sacrifice. The real kind, not the Instagram kind. What did it cost you?" Clara thought about lying, making it prettier, easier, but this woman had nearly died yesterday, and she was using her limited energy to interrogate a stranger about her dead mother. That deserved honesty. "Everything.
My scholarship, my degree, my friends, because I couldn't go out when they did. My 20s, basically. The words came out flat, factual. She had stage 4 pancreatic cancer,
15 months from diagnosis to death. I was 26. Lily was 14. Our father left when she was 3, so it was just us. Do you resent it? Some days. Most days I'm just tired. But you'd do it again. It wasn't a question, but Clara answered anyway. In a heartbeat. Dorothy was quiet for a long moment, studying Clara's face like she was reading a map. My husband died 6 years ago. Heart attack in his sleep. I woke up next to him and he was just gone. Her voice didn't waver. People kept telling me how lucky I was that he didn't suffer. How grateful I should be for 53 good years. Like gratitude makes up for waking up alone every morning after. Clara understood what wasn't being said. It doesn't. No, it doesn't. Dorothy's hand lifted slightly, an invitation. Clara took it, felt the papery skin and prominent bones, the wedding ring that would never come off. Catherine, my grandson's wife, she was a lovely girl, sweet, kind. Absolutely wrong for James. Clara blinked at the shift. That's a harsh thing to say about someone who died. It's the truth. They met in college, married too young, had Owen too soon. Catherine wanted a husband who came home at 5:30 and took family vacations. James wanted to build an empire. Neither of them was wrong. They just weren't right together. Dorothy's grip tightened slightly. She was leaving him. Week before the accident, she asked for a separation. James was going to fight it, probably would have won because he has better lawyers and more money. Then she died, and he got to feel guilty instead of divorced. The information sat heavy in Clara's chest. Does Owen know? That his parents' marriage was failing? No. He just knows his mother died and his father wasn't there, and now everyone leaves. Dorothy's expression turned fierce. That's what you're walking into, girl. A man who throws money at problems because emotions scare him, and a boy who's learned that loving people means losing them. Still want the job? Clara thought about Owen's hand slipping into hers last night, the way he'd asked if she would stay until he fell asleep, the dinosaur pajamas and the moon nightlight and the empty space in his drawings. Yes. Why? Because someone has to show him that staying is possible. Dorothy's laugh was rough but genuine. You might be crazy enough to actually help them. She released Claire's hand, gestured toward the window. James is outside pretending he's on an important call. He's actually giving us privacy because he's terrified I'll scare you off. Go tell him he can stop pacing. Clara stood, moved to the door, then turned back. Mrs. Hartford, Dorothy, if you're going to be part of this family, use my name. I'm not part of your family. I'm an employee. Keep telling yourself that, dear. Won't make it true. Dorothy closed her eyes, suddenly looking every one of her 78 years. Now go. I need to rest. And Clara? Her eyes opened again, pinning Clara in place. Thank you for showing up. Both times. James was exactly where Dorothy said he'd be, phone pressed to his ear but screen dark, pacing the length of the waiting area. He looked up when Clara approached, something like relief flooding his expression. How bad was it? She asked about my mother, about why I'm here, about whether I understand what I'm walking into. And I'm still here.
James's shoulders dropped an inch. She approved you. Apparently. Clara crossed her arms, leaning against the door frame. She also told me about Catherine, about the separation. The relief vanished, replaced by something harder. That wasn't her story to tell. Maybe not, but it explains a lot. Like what? Like why you're so desperate for Owen to have stability.
Why you can't be in that room for more than 10 minutes without finding an excuse to work. Why you hire nannies instead of being home. Clara kept her voice level, not judging, just observing. You're punishing yourself for something that wasn't your fault. James's jaw tightened. You've been here less than 24 hours. Don't presume to understand my marriage. I don't understand your marriage. I understand guilt. It's different. They stood in the sterile hospital corridor, the space between them charged with things neither was ready to name. Clara could see James struggling with the urge to dismiss her, to put her back in the box labeled employee where things were simple and safe. Instead, he asked, "How's Owen?" On the bus, complained about his socks, ate half a waffle, drew you a picture of a brachiosaurus. Clara pulled the folded paper from her pocket, handed it over. He said to give it to you when you weren't busy. James unfolded the drawing carefully. Green crayon dinosaur with a too long neck, standing in grass that might have been scribbles or might have been a garden. In the corner, in Owen's careful first-grade printing, "For Daddy." He hasn't drawn me anything in months. You haven't been home for breakfast in months. The words came out sharper than Clara intended, but James didn't flinch, just kept staring at the drawing like it was a message he didn't know how to decode. I was home this morning, had a meeting at 8, but I was there. You were on your phone in your study. Owen could hear you through the door. Clara watched his expression shift, guilt replacing defensiveness. I'm not trying to make you feel worse. I'm trying to help you see what he sees, which is a father who's there but not present. And you're going to fix that? No, you are. I'm just going to keep Owen safe while you figure out how. James folded the drawing, slipped it into his jacket pocket over his heart. My grandmother likes you because you don't pull punches. Your grandmother likes me because I showed up with a children's book and read to her when she was dying. She's not dying anymore. Everyone's dying. Some of us just have better timelines. The corner of James's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Optimistic. Realistic. There's a difference. Clara checked her watch. 9:15. I need to go grocery shopping. Owen says all you have is cereal and frozen pizza. We have a housekeeper who handles shopping. Margaret's been focused on your grandmother. The fridge is empty except for condiments and what I'm pretty sure is science experiment yogurt. Clara pulled out the list she'd made that morning. I need access to a credit card and someone to tell me where normal people shop around here. Normal people? People who don't have personal shoppers at Whole Foods. James pulled out his wallet, extracted a black card. There's a market 3 blocks east. Margaret shops there. Everything you need, no limit. Clara took the card, feeling the weight of plastic that probably had no maximum. I'm going to need parameters. I'm not buying caviar for a 6-year-old. Owen likes chicken nuggets, macaroni and cheese, and anything shaped like dinosaurs. Beyond that, use your judgment. James's phone buzzed. Actually buzzed this time, not pretend. He glanced at the screen and Clara saw his expression shift into professional mode. I have to take this board meeting I've already rescheduled twice. Go. I've got things handled here. Clara, he stopped, searching for words. Thank you. For this morning. For last night. For not running when my grandmother ambushed you. Give me time. Still might run. But she smiled when she said it, and James smiled back. And for a moment, they were just two people trying to navigate impossible situations with insufficient resources. Then his phone rang again, and the moment broke. The market was everything Clara's Queen's grocery store wasn't. Clean, well lit, stocked with produce that looked like it had been individually polished. She wandered the aisles with a cart that didn't have a broken wheel, adding chicken breasts and fresh vegetables and the ingredients for the chocolate chip cookies Owen had asked for 3 times at breakfast. Her phone rang while she was debating between organic and regular milk. Lily's number. "Shouldn't you be in school?" Her sister's voice was tight. "I'm in the bathroom. Mrs. Chen called the landlord. He wants to talk to you about the noise complaint." Clara closed her eyes, counted to 5. "What noise?" "I had friends over last night. We were watching a movie. It wasn't even that loud." Lily's defensive tone suggested it had been exactly that loud. "He said 1 more complaint and he's adding a penalty to the rent." "How much?" $200. Clara did the math. Rent was due Friday. She had $847 in checking. First paycheck from the Hartfords wouldn't come until the 1st of December, 6 days away. Even with her first month's salary, the penalty would eat into money she'd been counting on for Lily's SAT books and the last medical bill. "Tell him I'll call tonight. And Lily, no more friends over on school nights." "You're not even here. You don't get to tell me." "I'm not here because I'm working to keep us from getting evicted. So yes, I do get to tell you." Clara's voice came out harder than she meant. She softened it. "I know this is hard. I know you're mad at me for leaving. But we're on the same team, okay? I need you to help me out here." Silence. Then, quietly, "I'm sorry about the noise. I didn't think she'd actually call." "Mrs. Chen calls about everything, you know that." "Yeah." Lily's voice wobbled. "I just miss you. The apartment's too quiet without you." Clara's chest ached. "I miss you too. But Sunday, remember? Chocolate chip pancakes." "Promise?" "Promise." After they hung up, Clara stood in the dairy aisle of a market that cost more than her rent, holding organic milk that Owen would probably drink 3 sips of, feeling the weight of existing in 2 worlds that didn't overlap. She bought the organic milk, bought everything on her list and things that weren't, including the ingredients for the pot roast Dorothy had mentioned in the hospital, the one that was Hartford family tradition. Margaret had texted her the recipe that morning with a note. "Sunday dinner. Mrs. Dorothy will expect it when she comes home." The taxi back to the mansion cost $18. Clara paid with James's card, feeling strange about it, about using someone else's money for everyday things. The driver helped her carry the bags to the door where Margaret was waiting. "Mr. Hartford called. Said you were shopping." Margaret surveyed the bags with approval. "Good. That boy needs real food, not cereal 3 meals a day." They unpacked together, filling the refrigerator and pantry with actual ingredients instead of takeout containers. Margaret moved around the kitchen with the ease of 30 years' practice, directing Clara to the right cupboards, the proper storage. "How is Mrs. Dorothy?" "Sharp. Asked questions that were none of her business." "That means she likes you. When she doesn't like someone, she's polite." Margaret pulled out the pot roast ingredients, laid them on the counter. "Did she tell you about Catherine?" "Some. About the separation." "That was a hard time. Mr. Hartford was working 100-hour weeks trying to save a deal that was falling apart. Catherine was lonely, angry. They fought constantly those last months." Margaret's hands stilled on the carrots she'd been washing. "Then she died.
and he couldn't fight anymore, could only feel guilty. That's not healthy. No, but it's familiar. His father was the same way. Poured everything into work, nothing into family. Mr. Hartford Sr. died of a heart attack at 59, sitting at his desk on a Sunday. Margaret resumed washing vegetables. James swore he'd be different. Then Catherine died, and he became exactly what he feared. Clara thought about James's exhausted eyes, the way he defaulted to work whenever emotions got complicated. How do I help him? You don't. You help Owen. James has to save himself. And if he can't? Margaret's expression turned sad. Then you keep that boy safe while his father figures out whether he wants to be present or just successful. Sometimes those things can't coexist. They spent the afternoon preparing Sunday dinner despite it being Thursday. Margaret wanted to teach Clara the recipe properly, wanted her to understand that Hartford pot roast wasn't just meat and vegetables. It was tradition, history, connection. You start the night before, Margaret explained, demonstrating the brine. Rosemary, bay leaves, peppercorns, salt. The meat soaks overnight, absorbs all the flavor. Clara watched, took notes, asked questions. The kitchen filled with the scent of herbs and butter, warmth seeping into corners that had probably been cold for months. Through the window, she could see the garden where Dorothy had been working when she collapsed, roses going dormant for winter, a stone bench, a fountain that wasn't running. Does James ever come out here? Not since Catherine died. She loved that garden. Spent hours planting, weeding, just sitting. Margaret's voice was gentle. He can't look at it without seeing her. That's a terrible way to live. It's the only way he knows. At 3:15, Clara's phone alarm went off. School pickup. She'd arranged with Margaret to meet Owen's bus at the corner, walk him home, establish routine, the kind of consistency he'd been missing. Owen came down the bus steps like he was heading toward execution. His shoulders were hunched, backpack dragging, but when he saw Clara waiting, something in his posture shifted. You're still here. Where else would I be? Nancy left on the 3rd day. Rebecca left on day 5. Hannah made it a week. Owen recited this like a litany, a history of loss condensed into numbers. Clara knelt down to his level, ignoring the cold sidewalk. I'm not Nancy, or Rebecca, or Hannah. I'm Clara. And I made you chocolate chip cookies. His eyes widened. Really? Really? And Margaret's teaching me your grandma's pot roast recipe. The one with the carrots that get all soft? The very one. Owen's hand slipped into hers, trusting. They walked back to the mansion together, his chatter filling the November air with details about his day. The math worksheet where he got 7 out of 10 right. The fact that Marcus brought a real fossil for show and tell. The way his teacher, Mrs. Patterson, said his handwriting was improving. Normal 6-year-old things that suggested maybe, under the grief and fear, there was still a regular kid who just needed someone to listen. The cookies were cooling on the counter when they got home. Owen's eyes went wide, and he looked at Clara like she'd performed magic. Can I have one now? After you show me your homework. He groaned but pulled out his backpack, spreading papers across the kitchen table. Reading worksheet, math problems, a permission slip for a field trip to the Natural History Museum next week. Clara read it over his shoulder. Dinosaurs? The whole hall. Mrs. Patterson says they have a T-Rex skeleton that's like 1 million years old. 65 million, probably. Can I go? Owen's voice held uncertainty, like he expected rejection. The form says a parent has to come, But Daddy's always working, and I don't know if you can. Let me talk to your dad. No promises, but I'll try. Okay. He didn't sound convinced. They worked through homework together, Clara helping with reading, letting him struggle appropriately with math before offering hints. She'd forgotten how much she loved this part of teaching, the moment when understanding clicked into place and a child's face lit up with accomplishment. Owen finished his last problem, looked up at her hopefully. Now cookies? Now cookies. They ate 3 each, sitting at the kitchen counter while Margaret prepared vegetables for dinner. Owen swung his legs, chocolate smearing his mouth, telling Clara elaborate stories about what dinosaurs would eat if they were alive today. T-Rex would definitely eat pizza, the big ones with lots of meat. What about Brachiosaurus? Salad, really, really big salads. The front door opened at 6:30. James's voice carried down the hall. I'm home. Owen froze mid-story, the light in his eyes dimming. Clara watched the transformation, shoulders hunching again, chocolate smile fading, the wall going up between who he was and who he thought he needed to be around his father. James appeared in the kitchen doorway, tie loosened, looking like he'd been awake for 3 days. His eyes found Owen first, then Clara. How was school, buddy? Fine. One word. Flat. Just fine? Yeah. The silence stretched uncomfortable. James looked at Clara helplessly. She kept her expression neutral, refusing to translate, to make this easier. I got 7 out of 10 on my math worksheet, Owen offered finally, not looking at his father. That's good. Better than last week. I guess. Another silence. James shifted his weight, clearly wanting to connect and having no idea how. I should change. Dinner soon? 30 minutes, Margaret answered from the stove. James disappeared upstairs. Owen's shoulders relaxed the moment he was gone. Clara waited until she heard the second-floor door close. You want to tell me what that was about? What? The way you shut down the second your dad came home. Owen picked at a chocolate chip on his plate. He doesn't really care about my math worksheet. How do you know? Because he asks, but he doesn't listen. He's already thinking about work or phone calls or other stuff. Owen's voice was matter-of-fact, not accusatory, just stating reality as he understood it. It's okay. Grandma Dot says he's doing his best. Clara's chest hurt. 6 years old and already resigned to emotional crumbs. What if his best could be better? How? What if we helped him learn how to listen? Owen looked skeptical. You can't teach grown-up stuff. Sure you can. They're just bigger kids who forgot how to be honest. Clara wiped chocolate from his chin with a napkin. Your dad wants to connect with you. He just doesn't know how. So maybe we teach him. How do we do that? We start by you telling him things that are true, not just fine when he asks about your day, real things, even if it feels scary. What if he doesn't care? What if he does and just doesn't know how to show it? Owen considered this, 6-year-old brain working through complicated adult problems. Okay, but you have to be there. Deal. Dinner that night was supposed to be simple. Grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, rice. But Margaret had gone all out, creating the kind of meal that said family even when the family was fractured. They sat at the dining room table, which was large enough for 12 but held only 3. James at the head, Owen to his right, Clara across from Owen. Margaret served but didn't join them, disappearing back to the kitchen despite Clara's invitation. "Some boundaries are important," she'd whispered. "This is their family time. You're helping facilitate, but you're not family yet." Yet, like it was inevitable. James cut his chicken with surgical precision. Owen pushed rice around his plate.
Clara watched both of them, wondering how to bridge a gap neither seemed to know existed.
"Owen, tell your dad about show and tell." Owen looked up, wary. "Why?" "Because it was cool. Marcus brought a fossil." "It was an ammonite," Owen said, warming slightly to the topic. "Like 1,000,000 years old. Mrs. Patterson let me hold it." James set down his fork, giving Owen his full attention. "Did it look like the pictures in your dinosaur books?" "Better. It was real. I could see all the spiral parts." Owen's hands moved, describing the shape. "Marcus says his uncle found it in Colorado. Can we go to Colorado and find fossils?" "Maybe. That sounds fun." "Really?" Owen's eyes widened with hope that made Clara's chest ache. "Really. We could make it a trip. Just you and me." "And Clara?" James glanced at her. Something passed between them, acknowledgement, permission, the shifting of boundaries. "If Clara wants to come." Clara kept her voice neutral. "Colorado's beautiful."
"I've never been." Then it's settled. James smiled at his son, and Owen smiled back, genuine and bright. "We'll plan a trip, after the holidays maybe." They fell into easier conversation after that. Owen told his father about the field trip, about his improving handwriting, about the fact that Brachiosaurus would eat really big salads. James listened, actually listened, asking follow-up questions, engaging with dinosaur facts like they were the most important information in the world. Clara watched the way Owen's walls came down incrementally, how he leaned forward in his chair, how his voice gained confidence. This was what he needed. Not a perfect father, just a present one. After Owen was in bed, tucked in with moon stories that Clara made up on the spot, variations on Catherine's originals, she found James in his study, laptop open, but staring at nothing. "You did well tonight." He looked up, surprised. "I asked about his day." "You listened to the answer." "There's a difference." Clara leaned against the doorframe.
"He wants to believe you care. Keep showing him you do." "What if I mess it up?" "You will. Repeatedly. But kids are remarkably forgiving when you keep trying." James closed his laptop. "The field trip next week. Can you really go?" "That's my job. Taking care of Owen, being present for school things." "I meant as you, not just the nanny." His expression was open, vulnerable in a way she hadn't seen. He asked if you wanted to come, not if I was paying you to come. There's a difference. Clara understood what he was really asking, whether she was starting to care beyond the paycheck, whether Owen was becoming more than just another charge. "I like dinosaurs, and I've never seen a T-Rex skeleton. So yes, I want to come." "Thank you." "Stop thanking me for doing my job." "Is that all this is? A job?" The question hung between them, dangerous. Clara knew the safe answer, the professional one, the boundary that would keep her heart intact when this inevitably ended. But she thought about Owen's hand in hers, his trust that she'd stay, the way he'd smiled at dinner when his father actually listened. "Ask me again in a month." "Why a month?" "Because that's when I'll know if you're serious about being present or if this is just guilt masquerading as effort." James's expression flickered with something that might have been hurt. You don't pull punches. Your grandmother said the same thing. Must be a Hartford family value. Appreciating people who tell uncomfortable truths. We're not all Hartfords. You're not family. No. I'm the person making sure Owen doesn't grow up thinking his father's love comes with conditions. Clara pushed off the door frame. Good night, James. She was halfway to the stairs when his voice stopped her. My father used to work until midnight every night. Weekends, holidays, didn't matter. He said providing was love.
That success meant sacrifice. James's voice carried the weight of old wounds. I swore I'd be different. Then Catherine died, and work became the only thing that made sense. Numbers don't grieve. Spreadsheets don't have feelings. Success I could control. Clara turned back. And now? Now I have a son who asks the nanny to come on family trips because he doesn't trust that I mean it when I say I'll show up. James stood, moved to the window overlooking the dark garden. You asked if I'm serious about being present. Honestly, I don't know if I can be, but I want to try. That has to count for something. Wanting is step 1. Doing is step 2. There's a lot of space between them. Will you help me bridge it? That's not my job. Maybe it should be. Clara felt the shift in the air between them, the conversation sliding from professional to something more complicated. Dangerous territory. The kind that ended with her heart broken and Owen caught in the middle. I'm here for Owen, to give him stability while you figure yourself out. But I can't fix you, James. Only you can do that. I'm not asking you to fix me. I'm asking you to show me what presence looks like. You had a wife. She tried to show you. You chose work. The words were cruel, but James didn't flinch. Catherine wanted someone I couldn't be. Someone who came home at 5:30 and coached Little League and took family vacations. She wanted normal, and I wanted to build something that mattered. His voice dropped. Turns out, I built something hollow. But I'm trying to fill it now. Better late than never, right? Clara thought about her own choices, her own sacrifices, the life she'd built on the ruins of what she'd lost. Sometimes late is too late. Is that what you believe? I believe second chances are rare, and wasting them is a sin. Then don't let me waste mine. They stood in the study, the desk between them, the weight of confession and need and possibility hanging heavy. Clara could see the exhaustion in James's eyes, the genuine desire to be better, the fear that he'd fail. She could also see how easy it would be to step into this, to let herself believe that helping him meant something more than a paycheck, to forget that she was the nanny and he was the employer, and those lines existed for reasons. I'll help you be present for Owen, but that's where it ends. Fair enough. Clara turned to leave again. This time, James didn't stop her. The week that followed established patterns that felt dangerously like permanence. Clara woke at 6, had coffee with Margaret while discussing the day's meals. Owen stumbled down at 6:30, grumpy and warm from sleep. Breakfast was negotiated. Sometimes he won with cereal, sometimes she won with eggs. The walk to the bus became their time. Owen talked, Clara listened. He told her things in that early morning light that he couldn't say at other times, that he missed his mom, but was starting to forget her voice, that he was scared Grandma Dot would die too, that he wished his dad would stop working long enough to just play. Clara carried these confessions like sacred trust. Some she shared with James, others she kept, knowing Owen needed privacy even at 6. James made it home for dinner 4 nights out of 7. On those nights, Clara orchestrated conversations the way a conductor led an orchestra. asking Owen questions that invited real answers, creating space for James to engage, stepping back when they found their own rhythm. On the nights James worked late, she and Owen ate at the kitchen counter, feet swinging, talking about dinosaurs and space and whether chocolate chip cookies counted as a food group. Dorothy came home from the hospital on Tuesday, installed in the main floor bedroom that had been converted for her recovery. She held court from an armchair by the window, directing household operations with the authority of someone who'd run things for 6 decades.
The pot roast needs more rosemary. Tell Margaret. Owen's thank you note to his teacher was misspelled. Make him redo it. James looks terrible. He's not sleeping. Fix it. Clara became the translator between Dorothy's commands and everyone else's reality. She brought rosemary, supervised thank you notes, could do nothing about James's insomnia except suggest warm milk, which he refused. I'm not 6 years old. You're acting like it. He'd laughed at that. Actually laughed. The sound rusty but real. Friday morning, Clara's phone rang while she was helping Owen tie his shoes. The landlord. Miss Bennett, we need to discuss the situation. Clara stepped into the hall, kept her voice low. I'll have the rent plus penalty by tomorrow. I understand there was a noise complaint and it won't happen again.
There's been another complaint. Yesterday evening, music after 10 p.m. Clara's stomach dropped. I'll talk to my sister. This is the 3rd complaint in 2 months, Miss Bennett. I'm going to have to ask you to vacate by the end of December. Wait, I can fix this, please. We've been there 3 years, always paid on time. The other tenants are entitled to quiet enjoyment. I'm sorry, but I've made my decision. The call ended. Clara stood in the hallway, phone in hand, reality crashing down. They had to be out by December 31st. 6 weeks to find a new apartment in New York City with her credit score and rental history. Impossible. Completely impossible. Clara? Owen stood in the doorway, backpack on. The bus is going to come. She pulled herself together. Right. Let's go. The walk to the bus stop felt mechanical. Owen chattered about the field trip next week, but Clara could barely track the words. Her mind was spinning through calculations. First month, last month, security deposit, moving costs. Even with her Hartford salary, she wouldn't have enough saved by end of December, which meant Lily needed to find somewhere else to stay, which meant splitting up, which meant failure. The bus pulled away with Owen aboard. Clara stood on the corner, watching it disappear, and let herself feel the full weight of it. 3 years in that apartment. All of her mother's things still boxed in the closet because she couldn't bear to sort through them. The pencil marks on the kitchen door frame tracking Lily's growth. The only home they'd had since their mother died. Gone. Her phone rang again. Lily this time. Did he call you? Yeah. Clara started walking back to the mansion, needing the movement. 3 strikes, we're out. I'm sorry, I didn't mean... My friends just came over to study and we had music on, and I didn't realize it was that late. It doesn't matter now. We have to be out by New Year's. Lily was crying. Clara could hear it in her breathing. Where are we gonna go? I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. We can't afford anywhere else, not in the city. Maybe not the city. Maybe Queens. Maybe Jersey. All my friends are here. My school. I know. Clara's voice cracked. I know, Lil. But sometimes we don't get to choose. She hung up before her sister could hear her crying. Stood on the sidewalk 3 blocks from a mansion she was living in, wearing clothes she'd bought from a thrift store,
feeling the gap between her two lives widen into a chasm. Margaret found her in the kitchen 20 minutes later, staring at nothing. "What's wrong?" Clara told her. All of it. The noise complaints, the eviction, the impossible math of finding housing in a city that ate people like her alive. Margaret listened without interrupting, her expression growing progressively more concerned. When Clara finished, she set down the dish towel she'd been folding. "You need to tell Mr. Hartford." "Why? It's not his problem." "It affects Owen. If you're distracted, worried, if you leave to deal with apartment hunting, that affects the stability he needs." "I'm not leaving. I'll figure it out." "How? You work here 6 days a week. When exactly are you going to apartment hunt?" Clara hadn't thought that far ahead. "Sundays. Your day with your sister. She'll understand." Margaret's expression suggested she doubted that. "Or you could ask for help. People with resources helping people who need them, that's not charity. It's human. I'm not asking James Hartford to solve my housing crisis." "Why not? He solves everyone else's problems with money. At least this time it would be for someone who deserves it." Clara shook her head. "I can't. It crosses too many lines." "Sometimes lines need to be crossed." But Clara held firm. This was her problem, her failure, her responsibility to fix. The field trip to the Natural History Museum was scheduled for Wednesday. Clara had been looking forward to it. A day with Owen outside the mansion routine, a chance to see him in his element, surrounded by dinosaurs. Instead, she spent the bus ride there with her phone calculator open, running numbers that never added up to enough. Owen didn't notice at first. He was too excited, bouncing in his seat, pointing out the window at landmarks, counting down blocks until they arrived. 20 other first graders created chaos around them, but Owen stuck close to Clara, his hand in hers. The museum was exactly what he'd promised: massive halls filled with skeletons, dioramas, fossils preserved under glass. Owen dragged her from exhibit to exhibit, reading every placard, absorbing information like he was studying for a test. "The T-Rex lived 67 million years ago. That's older than anything." "Older than Grandma Dot?" He giggled. "Way older." They stood beneath a massive skeleton, Owen's neck craned back to see the skull. Clara tried to be present, to appreciate this moment, but her mind kept circling back to apartment listings and security deposits, and the fact that she was failing at the one job she'd promised herself she'd never fail at: keeping Lily safe. "Clara?" She looked down. Owen was staring at her with an expression too knowing for 6. "You're sad." "I'm fine, buddy." "You doing the thing Daddy does? The not really here thing?" His small hand squeezed hers. "You can tell me. I'm good at secrets." Clara knelt down, eye level with him in the middle of the dinosaur hall. Around them, kids shrieked and teachers called for order, but in their bubble, it was quiet. "I'm worried about something. Grown-up stuff. But I'm working on it, okay? It's not your problem." "Is it about your sister?" "How did you know?" "You always look sad when you talk to her on the phone." Owen considered this. "Maybe Daddy can help. He's good at fixing things." "Some things can't be fixed with money." "Daddy says money fixes everything." Clara's chest tightened. Of course James would teach his son that. Of course the lesson would be that wealth solved problems, that emotional complexity could be purchased away. Money helps, but it doesn't fix people feeling scared or sad or worried. Those things you have to work through yourself. Owen processed this seriously. "Are you scared?" "A little." "Me too." Sometimes. What are you scared of? That you'll leave? Like Nancy and Rebecca and Hannah and Mom? His voice dropped to a whisper. And then it'll just be me and Daddy. And he doesn't know how to make mac and cheese, or tell moon stories, or any of the good stuff. Clara pulled him into a hug, right there in the middle of the museum. I'm not leaving, Owen. I promise. But you're sad. And sad people leave. Not this time. Being sad doesn't mean going away. It just means I have hard things to figure out. She pulled back, looked him in the eyes. But I'm still going to be here for cookies and homework and dinosaur facts. Okay? Okay. He didn't sound convinced. The rest of the field trip passed in a blur. Clara smiled through it, asked appropriate questions, took photos of Owen standing beneath his favorite exhibits. But underneath, she felt the weight of promises she might not be able to keep. They got back to the mansion at 3. James's car was in the driveway. He never came home this early. Inside, she found him in the kitchen with Margaret, both of them looking serious. I need to talk to you, James said when he saw her. Owen, go do your homework in your room. But I want to tell you about the T-Rex. In a minute, buddy. Homework first. Owen trudged upstairs, shooting Clara a worried look over his shoulder. She had a sudden flash of Nancy and Rebecca and Hannah, all the nannies who had been summoned to the kitchen and told their services were no longer needed. Margaret excused herself, leaving them alone. I got a call from Margaret this morning, James said without preamble, about your apartment situation. Clara felt heat flood her face. She had no right. She had every right. This affects Owen, affects your ability to focus on your job. I'm handling it. By apartment hunting on your one day off, while trying to manage your sister and figure out housing in a city where average rent is $3,000 a month? James crossed his arms. That's not handling it. That's drowning. It's not your problem. It is if it impacts Owen's stability, which it does. Clara's hands clenched into fists. So what, you're firing me? I have until Sunday to figure something out, and then I'm gone? What? No. James looked genuinely confused. Clara, I'm trying to help. I don't need your help. Yes, you do. And that's not weakness. That's reality. They stared at each other across the kitchen, the space charged with frustration, and something neither was willing to name. I have guest rooms, James said finally. 4 of them, sitting empty. Your sister could stay here, finish high school, apply to colleges. You'd be together, she'd be safe, the housing crisis is solved. Clara felt the offer like a physical blow. You want my 16-year-old sister to move into your mansion. I want you to stop carrying weight you don't have to carry alone. This crosses every professional boundary. Maybe some boundaries are less important than people. Clara thought about Lily alone in the apartment, terrified of being displaced, about Mrs. Chen's complaints and the landlord's ultimatum, about the fact that she'd been so focused on keeping Lily housed that she hadn't considered whether it was the right place anymore. But accepting James's offer meant admitting she couldn't do this alone, meant letting him solve her problems with money and space and resources she'd never have access to otherwise, meant becoming dependent on his generosity in ways that made her stomach hurt. I can't. Why not? Because when this job ends, and eventually it will, where does that leave Lily? Displaced again? Learning that security is temporary and people leave and nothing lasts? What if the job doesn't end? Everything ends, James. Jobs, arrangements, people trying to be better than they are. It all ends eventually. His expression shifted to something harder, That's what you believe? That I'm trying and failing, and eventually I'll give up? I believe you're a man who solves problems with money because emotions are complicated and work is easier. And I believe that using your wealth to fix my life is just another way of avoiding your own.
The words hung between them, cruel and true and impossible to take back. James's jaw tightened. Get out. Clara's heart stopped.
What?
Not permanently, just for tonight. I need to think.
He turned away from her, hands braced on the counter.
Take the evening. Come back tomorrow.
Owen,
I'll handle Owen. Go see your sister. Figure out what you actually want instead of what you think you should want.
Clara grabbed her coat, her keys, fled before the tears could fall. The taxi ride back to Queens felt like crossing between dimensions, from the mansion's warmth to her apartment's cold reality. Lily was doing homework at the kitchen table when Clara came through the door. She looked up, surprised. I thought you weren't coming until Sunday. Change of plans. Clara dropped her bag, collapsed onto the futon. We need to talk about where you're going to live. Lily stared at Clara from across the cramped kitchen table, calculus homework forgotten. The apartment felt smaller than usual, the walls pressing in with the weight of impossible decisions. You're asking me to move into a mansion with people I don't know. Clara kept her voice steady, despite the tremor in her chest. I'm asking you to consider an option that keeps us together and gets you out of a building where the landlord wants us gone. With your boss, who you've known for, 10 days? Lily's eyes were bright with unshed tears. What happens when you get fired? When he decides we're too much trouble? We're back here, except there is no here anymore because we gave up the apartment. The logic was sound. Clara had been running the same calculations since fleeing the Hartford mansion 2 hours ago. Every scenario ended with vulnerability, dependence, the risk of catastrophic failure. But so did staying. The landlord wants us out by December 31st regardless. We have 6 weeks to find somewhere else, and with my work schedule, that's basically impossible. Clara pulled up apartment listings on her phone, turned the screen toward her sister. Look at these. Studio apartments in bad neighborhoods for $2,500 a month. 1 bedrooms in Jersey for $3,000. We can't afford any of it. Lily scrolled through the listings, her expression growing progressively more hopeless. So we're just going to be homeless? No, we're going to make a choice. Either I quit the Hartford job and find something with regular hours so I can apartment hunt properly, which means less money and probably leaving the city entirely, or we accept help from someone who has the resources to give it. Help that comes with strings. All help comes with strings, Lil. The question is whether we can live with them. Lily set the phone down, picked at the edge of her textbook. What's he like? Really like, not the stuff you tell me to make me feel better.
Clara thought about James in the hospital corridor, exhausted and honest. James at dinner, actually listening to his son's dinosaur facts. James in the kitchen this afternoon, offering solutions to problems that weren't his to solve. He's complicated, trying to be better than he's been, failing sometimes, succeeding others. She met Lily's eyes. He loves his son. That's real. Everything else is him figuring out how to be present instead of just providing. And you think living in his house won't make things weird? It'll definitely make things weird. But you want to do it anyway. Clara paused, examining her own motivations with uncomfortable honesty. I want you safe. I want us together.
I want to stop feeling like we're one crisis away from losing everything. Her voice dropped. I'm tired, Lily. Tired of struggling. Tired of sacrificing. Tired of watching you give up things because we can't afford them. If someone's offering a way out, maybe we should take it.
Willie was quiet for a long moment, fingers tracing patterns on the worn table surface. Outside, sirens wailed past, the familiar soundtrack of their neighborhood.
What about Mom's stuff? All her boxes in the closet. We can't just leave them. We'll bring them. The guest rooms at the Hartford place are bigger than this entire apartment. There's space for everything that matters. It won't feel like home. Home is wherever we're together. That's what Mom used to say, remember? Lily's eyes filled. She also said, never to depend on anyone but family. Maybe sometimes family expands to include people who show up when you need them. The argument was weak, and both of them knew it. But Lily was 16 and scared, and Clara was offering the only option that didn't end in complete disaster. If I say yes, Lily started slowly, can I back out? If it sucks or gets weird or I hate it? We both can. The second it's not working, we figure out Plan B.
What's Plan B? I have no idea. But we'll make it work because we always do.
Lily wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Okay, but I'm bringing my posters. All of them. Clara laughed, the sound shaky with relief. All of them. Even the boy band ones I hate. Especially those. They spent the next hour sorting through what would come immediately versus what could be packed later. Lily's school supplies, clothes for 2 weeks, the photo albums from before their mother got sick. Clara moved through the apartment mechanically, each item a small goodbye to the life they'd built here. Her phone buzzed at 9:15, James's number. She stepped into the bathroom for privacy, Lily's raised eyebrow following her. I owe you an apology. James's voice was rough, like he'd been yelling or crying, or both. Telling you to leave was wrong. You challenged me, and I reacted defensively instead of hearing what you were actually saying.
Clara sat on the edge of the tub, the chipped porcelain cold through her jeans.
I was harsh.
You were honest. There's a difference. A pause, the sound of him breathing. Owen asked where you were at bedtime. I told him you needed to see your sister. He asked if you were coming back.
What did you tell him?
That I hoped so. That I'd been an idiot and maybe you were done with idiots. Something in his voice cracked. He said you wouldn't leave because you promised. That you're not like the others.
Clara's throat tightened. I'm not.
I know. That's why I'm calling. Not to pressure you about the housing thing, just to...
He stopped, searching for words.
I read him moon stories tonight. Made them up based on what I remembered Catherine telling him. Got most of it wrong, but he didn't correct me. Just fell asleep holding my hand.
That's good, James. That's progress.
It's terrifying. What if I can't sustain it? What if I slip back into work mode and disappoint him again? Then you'll apologize and try harder tomorrow. That's what parents do. Is that what your mother did? The question caught her off guard. My mother was sick for so long that trying harder meant just staying alive one more day. But yeah, she apologized when she couldn't be there for things. Made sure we knew it wasn't our fault. I never apologized to Owen. Didn't think 6-year-olds needed that. Everyone needs that. Apologies teach accountability. James was quiet for a beat. Will you come back tomorrow? I'll understand if you don't, but Owen, he needs you. I need... He cut himself off. Just come back. Please. Lily and I talked. She's willing to try the guest room arrangement if the offer still stands. The relief in his exhale was audible. It stands. When can you move in? This weekend. We need to pack, arrange for movers for the furniture we're keeping. I'll send people.
They'll handle everything.
Clara bristled instinctively. We can manage. I know you can. But why should you have to when I can make it easier? His tone shifted, becoming something softer. This isn't me throwing money at problems, Clara. This is me helping people. People who matter. There's a difference. What? People I care about? People I'm starting to need? Clara didn't push for him to finish the sentence. Some things were safer left unspoken. Okay, send your people. We'll be ready Saturday morning. Thank you for giving this a chance. Thank me when it works, not before. After they hung up, Clara emerged from the bathroom to find Lily pretending she hadn't been listening through the door. So we're really doing this? We're really doing this. Is he in love with you? Clara nearly dropped her phone. What? No. Why would you even... The way you talk about him, the way he called to apologize? Lily's expression was too knowing. I'm 16, not stupid. I recognize feelings. There are no feelings. He's my employer. I'm his employee. Everything else is just complicated circumstances. Complicated circumstances that involve you living in his house, taking care of his kid, and him sending movers to pack our stuff. Lily raised an eyebrow. Sure, super professional. Clara wanted to argue, to defend the boundaries she'd been so careful to maintain, but standing in their soon-to-be former apartment, boxes half-packed around them, those boundaries felt increasingly like fiction. It doesn't matter what I feel or don't feel. Some lines can't be crossed. Why not? Because when this ends, and it will end, I can't afford to have my heart broken along with losing my job. Lily considered this with the seriousness of someone who'd watched her sister sacrifice everything for 2 years. Maybe some risks are worth it. Easy to say when it's not your heart on the line. Your heart's already on the line. You're just pretending it's not. Clara didn't have an answer for that. She turned back to packing, letting the rhythm of folding clothes and wrapping dishes replace the need for words. Saturday arrived wrapped in November cold. The movers James sent were efficient and professional, boxing up the Bennett sisters' entire life in 4 hours. Clara watched strangers handle her mother's belongings with careful indifference and felt the finality of it settle in her bones. Lily rode in the moving truck, unwilling to let their mother's photo albums out of sight. Clara took a taxi, watching Queens disappear behind her as the driver navigated toward Manhattan. 28 years she'd lived in this city, and she'd never felt more unmoored. The Hartford mansion looked different in daylight, less imposing, more like an actual home. Margaret met them at the door, directing movers with the authority of someone who'd orchestrated 1,000 arrivals. Your rooms are 3rd floor, east wing. Miss Lily's is across the hall from yours. She smiled at Lily, who was trying very hard to look unimpressed. There's fresh linens on both beds, towels in the bathrooms. If you need anything rearranged, just say so. Lily's eyes went wide when she saw her room. Easily 3 times the size of their shared Queens apartment,
with windows overlooking the garden and an actual desk for homework. The movers deposited her boxes in neat stacks, and she stood in the center of it all, looking lost. Clara touched her shoulder gently. "You okay?" "It's too much. This is someone's guest room, and it's bigger than anywhere we've ever lived." "I know. How do people live like this and think it's normal?" "They grow up with it. It's all they know." Lily turned to face her sister. "Promise me we won't get used to it. Promise we'll remember this is temporary." Clara wanted to make that promise,
Wanted to believe they could exist in this luxury without becoming dependent on it, without letting it change who they were fundamentally.
but she'd already felt herself softening toward James, toward Owen, toward the idea that maybe comfort wasn't something to be guilty about. "I promise we'll stay ourselves, no matter what." It was the best she could offer. Owen found them an hour later while they were unpacking Lily's clothes into a closet that could have housed a small family. He appeared in the doorway, shy and curious. "You're Lily." Lily looked up from the box she was sorting. "You're Owen. Clara said you're smart, that you're good at school." "Clara talks about me?" "All the time. She says you're going to college and be something important." Owen stepped into the room, examining Lily's posters with interest. "Who are these guys?" "A band. They're terrible, but I like them anyway."
Like how Clara likes broccoli, even though it's gross? Lily laughed, and Clara felt something in her chest ease.
"Exactly like that."
Owen plopped onto Lily's bed like he'd been invited.
"Do you want to see my dinosaur collection? I have 47 dinosaurs. Well, 46 real ones and one that's actually a dragon, but I pretend it's a dinosaur because dragons are just flying dinosaurs anyway." "That's a lot of dinosaurs." "I could show you, if you want." He looked at Lily hopefully, and Clara saw the lonely kid underneath the grief. Someone desperate for connection, for siblings or friends, or anyone who'd pay attention. Lily glanced at Clara, who nodded encouragement. "Okay, show me your dinosaurs." They disappeared down the hall, Owen's voice echoing back as he explained the difference between carnivores and herbivores. Clara stood in the empty room, surrounded by boxes that used to be their entire life, and felt the ground shift beneath her feet.
This was really happening. They were moving in, becoming part of this household, blurring every line she'd sworn to maintain.
"They'll be good for each other." James stood in the doorway, and Clara wondered how long he'd been watching. "Owen needs someone closer to his age. Lily needs someone who looks up to her." "She's 16. He's 6. That's not exactly peer relationship." "No, but it's sibling adjacent, which is something he's never had." Clara turned to face him fully. He looked better than he had Thursday night, more rested, less like he was held together with coffee and desperation. "Thank you for this, for letting Lily stay, for the movers, for all of it." "Stop thanking me. That's my line." "Then we're both terrible at accepting help." James moved into the room, hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable in his own house. "Dorothy wants to meet Lily. Officially. Says if the girl's living here, she needs to pass inspection." "Your grandmother interviews everyone."
It's her way of protecting the family, making sure the right people are let in. His eyes met Clara's, and something unspoken passed between them. "She already likes you. Lily should be fine."
"And if she's not?"
"Then we'll deal with it."
"But I have a feeling your sister is tougher than she looks." Clara thought about Lily surviving their mother's death, stepping up to manage things when Clara fell apart, handling eviction notices and noise complaints without falling to pieces. She's the toughest person I know. Runs in the family, apparently. They stood in the guest room that was now Lily's room, surrounded by boxes and possibility, and Clara felt the pull of something dangerous. The urge to step closer, to let James be more than just her employer, to believe that this arrangement could be sustainable. Instead, she stepped back. I should finish unpacking. Right, of course. James retreated to the doorway. Dinner at 6. Dorothy insists on family meals now that she's home. Fair warning, she'll interrogate Lily over the pot roast. Lily can handle herself. I'm sure she can. He paused, like he wanted to say something else, then just left. Clara exhaled slowly, releasing tension she hadn't realized she was holding. This was going to be harder than she'd thought. Living here, seeing James every day, watching Owen integrate Lily into his world like she'd always belonged. Keeping her heart separate from her job. Staying professional when everything felt increasingly personal. Dinner that night was exactly as advertised. Dorothy at the head of the table, James to her right, Owen beside him. Clara and Lily sat across from them, and Margaret served pot roast that smelled like home despite being made in someone else's kitchen. Dorothy studied Lily with the same intensity she'd brought to Clara's interview. So you're the sister, 16, junior in high school.
What do you plan to do with your life?
Lily straightened her spine, meeting Dorothy's gaze directly. College. Maybe engineering, maybe pre-med. I haven't decided yet. Why not? Because I'm 16 and figuring things out as I go. Dorothy's mouth curved into approval. Honest. Good. Too many young people pretend they have all the answers. She cut her pot roast with surgical precision. Your sister tells me you're smart. Top of your class. Mostly. I got a B in calculus last semester. Why? Lily's expression flickered. Guilt, shame, defensiveness all at once. My mom was dying. I missed some school. Couldn't focus on derivatives when she was in hospice. The table went silent. Owen stopped pushing carrots around his plate. James's fork paused midway to his mouth. Dorothy just nodded. Understandable. What's your calculus grade now? A-. Working on bringing it up. You'll manage. You've got your sister's spine. Dorothy turned her attention to Clara.
Did you teach her that? The refusal to quit even when circumstances are terrible?
Clara felt heat rise in her face. Our mom taught us both. Keep going, keep fighting, keep showing up. Your mother was clearly a wise woman. Dorothy took a bite of pot roast, chewed thoughtfully. Lily, you'll have access to the library. 3rd floor, west wing. Owen's supposed to use it for homework, but mostly he reads dinosaur books. Feel free to claim space. Lily blinked at the casual generosity. Thank you, ma'am. Call me Dorothy. Everyone does. She shifted her gaze to Owen. And you, young man, how was school this week? Owen launched into an elaborate story about a science experiment involving vinegar and baking soda. The conversation flowed around the table, surprisingly natural despite the strangeness of the situation.
Clara watched Lily gradually relax, saw the way Owen lit up when Lily asked follow-up questions about his stories, noticed James observing all of it with an expression she couldn't quite read. This was what family dinners were supposed to feel like. Warm, engaged, everyone present instead of distracted. The kind of thing they'd had when their mother was alive, before illness turned meals into medication schedules and carefully measured nutrition. After dinner, while Dorothy held court in the living room and Owen showed Lily his dinosaur collection for the second time, James caught Clara in the kitchen. That went well. Clara was loading the dishwasher, a task Margaret had insisted she didn't need to do, but Clara couldn't not do. Your grandmother is surprisingly kind when she's not interrogating people. She likes your sister. Says Lily reminds her of herself at that age. God help us all. James laughed, the sound easier than it had been a week ago. Thank you for being here tonight, for making this feel less awkward than it could have been. Lily made it easy. She's good at adapting. So are you. Clara closed the dishwasher, turned to face him. We've had a lot of practice. Adapting is what you do when nothing's stable. Is it stable now? The question hung heavy. Clara thought about boxes still unpacked upstairs, about the apartment they'd left behind, about the fact that this entire arrangement could collapse if James decided it was too complicated. Ask me in a month. You keep saying that. A month. Like it's some magic number. It's long enough to know if something's sustainable, short enough that walking away doesn't destroy you. James stepped closer, and Clara's heart rate kicked up. What if I don't want you walking away? As your employee or as... She stopped, unable to finish the sentence. As someone who matters. To Owen, to my grandmother, to... He stopped too, the confession incomplete. To me. He was going to say to me. Clara's hands gripped the counter behind her, needing something solid to hold on to. We can't do this, James. Why not? Because I work for you. Because Owen needs stability, not his father dating the nanny. Because when this goes wrong, and it will, I'll lose my job and my home and the only family I have left. What if it doesn't go wrong? Everything goes wrong eventually. That's life. That's fear talking. Clara's voice rose despite her effort to stay calm. Yes, I'm afraid. I'm terrified. I've built my entire adult life around not depending on anyone, not trusting that good things last, not letting myself believe in permanence. And you're asking me to risk all of that on what? Hope? Possibility? The chance that maybe this time things will be different? James didn't back down. I'm asking you to consider that maybe you deserve good things, that maybe Lily deserves a stable home, and you deserve to not carry everything alone. And Owen deserves both of us showing up fully instead of hiding behind professional boundaries. I'm not hiding. You're absolutely hiding. And I get it, Clara. I hide too. In work, in control, in the illusion that keeping everything compartmentalized means staying safe. His voice dropped, became something raw. But I'm tired of hiding. Tired of missing my son's childhood because I'm afraid to be present. Tired of pretending I don't feel things I absolutely feel. Don't say it. Clara's voice was a whisper. Please don't say it. Why not? Because once it's said, we can't go back. And I need to be able to go back if this falls apart. They stood in the kitchen, the space between them charged with everything unsaid. Clara could see the war in James's expression, the desire to push forward, the understanding of why she couldn't. Finally, he stepped back. Okay, we won't say it. But Clara, it's already real, whether we name it or not. He left her standing by the dishwasher, heart racing, foundations cracking. Upstairs, she found Lily unpacking the last of her boxes. Her sister looked up when Clara entered. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost.
Clara sat on the edge of Lily's bed, suddenly exhausted. I think I'm in over my head. With the job or with him? Both. Neither. I don't know anymore. Lily abandoned her unpacking, sat beside Clara. What happened? He almost told me he has feelings. I stopped him before he could finish. Why would you do that? Because if he says it, then I have to deal with it. Have to decide if I feel the same way, if I'm willing to risk everything on a relationship that could blow up spectacularly. Do you? Feel the same way? Clara thought about James reading moon stories to his son, James calling to apologize, James offering her sister a home without expecting anything in return. I don't know.
Maybe. Probably. She looked at Lily helplessly. But wanting something doesn't make it safe. Nothing's safe, Clara. You taught me that. Lily's voice was gentle. Mom dying wasn't safe. Us getting evicted wasn't safe. Moving in here isn't safe. But we did it anyway, because sometimes you have to risk things for the chance at something better. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. Clara pulled her sister into a hug, feeling 16 again herself, lost and scared and trying desperately to make the right choice with insufficient information. What if I mess this up? Then we'll deal with it. Together. Like we always do. Later, alone in her own room, Clara stood at the window overlooking the garden. Bare branches moved in the wind, the fountain still not running, the stone bench empty. Her phone buzzed. Text from James. I'm sorry for pushing. Take whatever time you need. I'm not going anywhere. She stared at the message, thumb hovering over the keyboard. A dozen responses drafted and deleted. Finally, she settled on, "Thank you for understanding." His response was immediate. Always. Clara set her phone down, climbed into the too-soft bed, and let herself imagine what it would be like to stop fighting. To let James in. To believe that maybe, possibly, this time the risk was worth it. Sleep came eventually, but her dreams were full of falling and not knowing if someone would catch her.